He always said he was too exhausted to help with our newborn, yet somehow found endless energy for late-night gaming sessions. After another sleepless night alone, I finally had enough. I canceled all his game subscriptions. Now he's furious. But maybe it's time he faces reality. My 28-year-old wife and my 30-year-old husband had our first child nearly a month ago. Understandably, it has been a significant adjustment for both of us. She is still not sleeping through the night, and we are both back at work full-time. We have always split household responsibilities 50-50ths. We help when needed, and it has always worked out well. My husband has recently been doing terrible chores, and I've had to come behind him to fix or clean them. For example, the other night he cleaned the bottles, but they were so dirty that I had to clean them again. He dumped pump parts into the disposal and then ran it, destroying them. He failed to clean several clothes after a blowout, and they are now ruined. There are many more examples like this. I've confronted him several times, telling him that we all make mistakes and that we're both tired, but it seems like he's not even trying to do things well. He keeps complaining about how tired he is and how difficult it is to work, while also caring for the house and baby. I understand, as I am also working, pumping, recovering, and caring for the house and baby. The final straw came when he told me to go to bed and then put up the milk. I just pumped and did the dishes. I was grateful until I got up and realized the milk had been sitting on the counter for too long, and it was no longer good. He apologized, put on a show to relax before doing the dishes, and fell asleep. The next day, I made the decision to cancel all of our streaming services, PlayStation Plus, and theme park passes in order to hire a housekeeper. I figured if he's too tired to do basic housework, a housekeeper is required. If he's too tired but has milk, he's too tired to play video games or go to a theme park with us. We still have cable and PlayStation games, and we can do activities outside of the local theme park. He lashed out at me saying I had no right to do that. He was infuriated. I thought I was doing us a favor by allowing us to sleep more and spend less time worrying about housework. Am I the idiot who canceled all of our streaming services to hire a housekeeper? Edit. I've been communicating nonstop about my needs and expectations. I've let a lot of mistakes slide because I understand how difficult this is for both of us. But when it becomes a daily occurrence, I inform him that if he is unable to fulfill his responsibilities, I will require additional assistance. When I mentioned hiring some help, he laughed and said, "What a ridiculous waste of money." I knew if I asked again, I'd get a no. So I made the decision for both of us, and I did not throw away the television or PlayStation. I just canceled our subscriptions for them. We were paying about $100 between the two. Our internet includes a few cable channels and Peacock, and we still have plenty of PlayStation games to play. We both play video games and watch television. I probably watch more streaming videos, so canceling them affects both of us. Housekeeping costs $300 per month, and everything I canceled, including Disney passes, costs about $230, so it will be less of a financial burden. Furthermore, it will save me money because I will not have to replace the damaged pump parts. Clothing and breast milk operation. You should have discussed it as a couple and reached this conclusion. Canceling everything was a power move intended to punish him for his mistakes. If not, why did you do it without first discussing it? I agreed to hire a nanny despite the fact that I did not believe I needed one. But ultimately, it was for my wife's sanity. You must work as a team. Get through the next 6 months and you'll be fine. You're the idiot. Sorry, you've completely missed the point. She has discussed this with him. How did he respond? But I am tired. This means he has abdicated his responsibility to find a solution as a couple. That was his power move. Telling her that it was her responsibility to figure out what she did. And he did not believe they needed a nanny. I'm guessing it's because he wasn't helping out around the house or contributing to childcare. Certainly not the idea. Your husband can handle you making an insignificant executive decision about streaming services to hire a housekeeper for your and your baby's health for a few months while you get your bearings. Claiming that canceling TV shows is a power move to punish your husband. Oh, you mean an adult man who can't store breast milk and keep his Charles bottles clean so the baby doesn't get sick? JFC, it isn't like she sold his car. I'm a 19-year-old mother to my beautiful toddler daughter, Amelia. The backstory. Last year, I was asked to be a bridesmaid at a family friend's wedding. I was overjoyed and said yes right away, even though it was a child-free event. I had arranged for a babysitter, but she informed me about a week before the wedding that she would no longer be in the city and would be unable to watch my daughter. Given the short notice, I approached the bride and asked if I could bring Amelia to the wedding because I didn't have time to find another reliable babysitter. My daughter is a very easygoing baby. She enjoys being around people and is content as long as she is fed. The bride knew this because she had seen my daughter on several occasions before, and she happily agreed, saying that having Amelia would make the wedding photos even more special. The wedding was going well, but I did notice a few stares from the groom's parents. Amelia stayed with my sisters for the majority of the day. Still, I brought her with me to the reception to congratulate the couple as I approached with Amelia in my arms. The groom's mother abruptly stated, "You shouldn't have brought a baby to a child-free wedding, especially when she doesn't fit the family." I was taken aback. My daughter is mixed. I am half wise, half Hispanic, and her father is black. I've been called whitewashed because I don't communicate with my Hispanic family, so I understood what she meant when she said my daughter didn't fit the family. The bride appeared stunned, and the groom immediately stood up and led his parents away. Take this as my cue. I decided that it was time to leave. I went around saying goodbye to everyone before putting Amelia in her stroller. As I was leaving, the bride approached me and apologized for her in-laws' behavior. I was upset, but I realized it wasn't her fault, so I just wished them luck and left. Now, a week after the wedding, I was tagged in a Facebook post. Strange because I don't use Facebook. The post stated, I quote, am outraged that my grandchildren were not permitted to attend this event, but it's perfectly acceptable when a teen mother who couldn't be responsible enough to leave her child with a father brings her baby. The post came from the groom's mother. To make matters worse, she's been telling family members that I'm lying about her comments about my daughter's appearance. So now I'm wondering if I'm the idiot. Oh, not that idiot. I opened this thinking I'd vote differently. It's not appropriate to swan into a child-free wedding with a child, but you had made responsible plans that fell through and then correctly requested permission to bring your daughter. The bride generously granted this permission. It was not the groom's mother's responsibility to determine who could and could not attend. Given the nasty things she said that day and the drama she's so determined to create online, it's clear that the groom's mother is the inspiration. In this scenario, you did your best in a difficult situation. She, on the other hand, appears to be capable of nothing but the worst. Probably one or more of the grandchildren is a holy terror, and it was easier to say child-free than no. Baby is not welcome. He bullied the toddlers at his last family event. He peed on the cake because it didn't contain chocolate. The fact that she was offended that her grandchildren were not invited suggests that it is not the first or last time. I'm a 39-year-old female, a wife and mother of 3 tween male, preteen female, and kindergarten-age female. My husband, Joe, is one of 3 boys. His parents own a vacation home in Hawaii, and they invite the kids, in-laws, and grandchildren every year for a week-long family vacation. For context, the Jonas Brothers were all competitive athletes who enjoyed playing sports and games during family vacations. My in-laws encourage this with their grandchildren. There are currently 7, and we are constantly trying to get them to play sand soccer or football on the beach. My son and younger daughter enjoy playing in the water, but my middle daughter Julia is different. Julia is intelligent and creative, but she is also a sensitive and introverted young girl. She has school friends, but she is hesitant to play with her male cousins because they do not share her interests. Julia and her school friends enjoy pretending they have created an entire imaginary world and putting on shows. We now have her in both theater and ballet. My 4 nephews and the other 2 children are uninterested in these activities and prefer to run around and play sports all day, just as Joe and his brothers did as children. Julia, for whatever reason, appears to have a distinct personality from the other children in the family. My daughter is also a huge bookworm, and she is completely obsessed with the Goosebumps series. When I say hooked, I mean she spends almost all of her free time reading these books and begs me to take her to the bookstore to buy more of them. She enjoys telling me about the books she is reading and has even begun writing about these stories before bed. I'm glad my daughter enjoys reading and is so creative, and I encourage her to pursue these interests. She quote, "S definitely different from my other two. Still, she's being herself and pursuing her own interests, which I adore. We went to the island on Thursday night and spent all day Friday and Saturday at the beach. Then I go to the pool today. Julia plays with her cousins at home and talks to them at mealtimes, but during the day, she prefers to sit next to me and read her books. I quote, "V encouraged her to swim while we're in Hawaii, and she does for a few minutes before asking to return to her book. She's played a few games with their cousins and siblings when I coerced her. But again, all she wants to do is read Goosebumps. Overall, when we're at the beach, I'd say she spends 1/5 of her time playing and 4/5 reading. She would spend the entire time reading if I did not encourage her to try new things for a while." My husband sees no problem with Julia spending her days reading. He claims we're on vacation, and it's about her having fun. He said it was up to her whether she wanted to spend the entire day reading on the beach, but at least she's getting some sunlight. She is having a great time while also expanding her mind. I agree, though I wish she would swim more while we're in Hawaii and spend more time with the other kids. This morning, before breakfast, my mother-in-law pulled my husband aside and asked if we were going to let Julia bring her boat to the pool today. My husband said yes, but my mother-in-law suggested we reconsider. She explained that the trip was about family and Julia had made memories with her siblings and cousins. I told my mother-in-law that Julia is very introverted and that she bonds with the other kids at the house during meals and on the beach, but she doesn't need to be running around with them all the time to make happy memories. My mother-in-law then accused us of spoiling Julia, encouraging her to be antisocial, and teaching her that her desires are more important than belonging to the group. My mother-in-law also claims Julia's obsession with Goosebumps is unhealthy, and she refuses to talk about anything other than fictional stories and characters. My mother-in-law frequently mentions Goosebumps, but she is exaggerating. My husband told me that Julia has friends at school, but has different interests than her cousins and siblings. He stated that he wants her to enjoy her vacation, and if that means reading all day, he supports it as long as it does not disrupt the rest of the group. The conversation ended with me telling my mother-in-law that Julia could bring her books to the pool, and that I would not force her to spend her vacation doing things she did not enjoy. My mother and father-in-law have spent the entire breakfast scowling at me and my husband. Julia began telling my mother-in-law about her favorite Goosebumps book, and my mother-in-law expressed her disinterest in hearing anything else about Goosebumps. She also advised Julia to discuss topics that would be of interest to others. Julia began asking her grandmother about the book she enjoyed in tennis. My husband told his mother not to parent his child in front of everyone, which was extremely awkward. We're about to go to the pool and I'm allowing Julia to bring her books, but I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing. I'm trying to strike a balance between letting her enjoy the trip and being part of the group. Am I an idiot for ignoring my mother-in-law's wishes? Allow her to be herself. She is introverted. Being in the group is too much for her, so she reads her book. It's good to see that your husband isn't a mummy's boy and is standing up for his child, not the idiot. Please do not leave your little girl alone with your mother. Law. Her dismissal of her when she attempted to discuss something she was excited about was simply cruel. Grandma will soon long for the days when her grandchildren want to talk to her. Oh, I do not like your in-laws. Do you understand how difficult it is to be an introverted child and be forced to socialize, even with your family? It's really hard. Tell Julia she's a rock star for accommodating Grandma's request to change the topic, instead of making things awkward. That displays a high level of maturity and thoughtfulness on her part. Obey. My wife Ann and I have been married for 13 years. I'm 43 and she's 46. We don't have children. When we first started dating, no one could make me happier than her, and she always seemed to know what to say when I was feeling down. But over the last decade or so, she's really begun to show her true colors, and a lot of what her ex-husband told me about her makes more sense. For example, I have a high-stress job. People bring me problems, and I fix them. But 9 times out of 10, when we get home and I have more problems to deal with, she doesn't work, so she can do whatever she wants to solve the problems during the day. but she's recently started making lists of things she wants me to do after I've worked all day. But my main issue with that is that I can never really open up to her about anything. When I tell her about something bad that happened to me, she either tries to outdo me or sides with the person who wronged me. Last Friday, I had a terrible day. There was a massive problem at work that essentially fell on my shoulders to solve. When I crossed the street after work, I had a green light and a bike. Blue throw, red, and side-clipped me. The cyclist yelled expletives at me before riding away. I considered calling the cops because it was technically a hit and run, but there was probably nothing they could do. When I got home, I was desperate and told Owen what had happened. She listened, then immediately took the cyclist's side. I reiterated that the cyclists had run through a red light, to which she replied that cyclists sound difficult to stop. When I corrected her and tried to put the matter to rest, she began frantically Googling laws. She discovered that in our state, lights can be treated like stop signs. She began triumphantly reading the law to me, word for word, becoming increasingly louder as I tried to tell her I wasn't interested. At the end of her speech, she gave me an arrogant look, as if she was correct. I just stared for a moment and said that my life would be better without her. She became enraged, screamed at me until her voice was hoarse, then packed her belongings and left to stay with her parents. She has texted me all weekend, demanding an apology, but I have not responded. Actually, it sounds like the problem has been solved. You said what needed to be said, and she left. Done. Undone. Thank goodness that trash took itself out. This relationship has been very unhealthy for a long time. Do you need assistance with the initial steps for contacting a lawyer or something? Otherwise, it sounds like you got her out of the house with little effort. Absolutely. This has clearly been building for a while. Good riddance. Honestly. She sounds exhausting, always needing to be correct. Not leaving may be a blessing in disguise. As a stay-at-home wife, she spends her entire day at home. Almost as if she's planning how to correct her husband when he gets home this evening. She has nothing else to do but tell him off. Oh, Peter, what needs to be said? This marks the beginning of a better life. As long as he follows through. The next story. Are you serious? You're the one with the problem. Why haven't you paid for our stay? Because you left me. Simply bring the money over. I won't because I got left behind. I did not even want to go on that trip. I have been married to my husband for 6 years. We have a cute 5-year-old daughter, and watching her grow up is the highlight of my life. However, our relationship is currently in a very bad state. When our daughter was 1, I quit my job, and my husband told me that if I didn't work, I had to do all of the housework. So I did everything around the house and cared for our child alone. When our daughter was a baby, I struggled to sleep. I asked my husband for help, but he only said he would divorce me if I complained. He even showed me the divorce papers and placed them in a drawer in front of me. Whenever something went wrong, he would pull out the divorce papers and discuss leaving. Looking disgusted. My mother-in-law, who raised him, is exactly like him. She always shows up unannounced. I opened the refrigerator without asking and ate my daughter's yogurt. If that was all she did, I might be able to manage. However, she also lectures me on how to be a good wife, especially since my husband has complained about me. She even finds dust in the corners of the house to criticize me. So when she says she has good news, I do not believe her. She came over recently and asked, "What is wrong with you?" You should be pleased with my good news. You quote, not very nice. My son is correct. What's new? We are going on a trip. Really? Where are we going? It's your responsibility, since you're not trying to figure it out. What do you mean? Seriously? You're not particularly bright, are you? It is unfortunate. I have a surprise for my son who works extremely hard. A surprise? Yes, let us all help him relax. My mother-in-law wants to go on a trip with her son, but she does not want to pay for it. So she thought she'd invite both me and our daughter. I'm hoping I can cover the costs. Who would want to take such a trip? I definitely do not. We can't afford it anyway. Let's make this a fantastic trip. I never agreed to go. I need some time to think. I ended the conversation with my mother-in-law, unsure of what to do when my husband arrived home that night. He was visibly upset. I could see why my mother-in-law would have told him what happened. I've heard you went against my mother today. I was simply being honest. What are you saying? We cannot take her on vacation. Exactly. We don't have enough money for it. My mother-in-law said it was a surprise and had already informed my husband about the trip. What's the surprise here? If we're having financial difficulties, it's your fault. How will I manage what we don't have? Are you saying I'm not making enough money? So it's not much. Are you kidding me? Anyway, I am definitely going on this trip. You have to plan everything. If you can't, we'll get divorced. I may as well get divorced now. But I am concerned about what my daughter will think. That is my only concern. In the end, I needed to find a hotel, even though I wasn't certain about the trip. After talking with my husband, my mother-in-law began making very specific demands. She preferred a room with an open bathtub and the best meals, among other things. I wondered how much it would cost to satisfy her demands, but I knew if I didn't, she'd make snarky remarks. So I decided to comply with her requests, even if it felt shameless. I got her everything she wanted. When she found out, she remained tense and irritated, saying something I couldn't quite understand. It's because I recommended everything to her. You would not have gotten the job if it hadn't been for my mother. My husband began lecturing me as usual during dinner. After 4 years of this, I had grown accustomed to it and simply let him continue. The only positive thing was that he did not make sarcastic remarks in front of our daughter, probably because he did not want to reveal that side of himself to her. On the day of the trip, I drove. I rented a car and got behind the wheel. My husband was sitting in the passenger seat like he owned the car, while my mother-in-law was in the back, paying no attention to our daughter. Instead, she was speaking to herself about souvenirs. I'd been driving all morning, and neither my husband nor my mother-in-law offered to help. I wasn't allowed to take a break, so we eventually stopped at a rest area when my daughter needed to use the restroom. I quickly took her to the restroom and returned to the car, but it had vanished. I drove around the parking lot in a panic, but the car was nowhere to be seen. I called my husband but got no answer, so I called my mother-in-law. You all took too long. My mother-in-law responded with a laugh. We left you behind. I attempted to explain that I had only been gone for a few minutes, but my husband interrupted. It's your fault for not listening to me. You do not deserve to go on this trip. Was that the plan from the beginning? If so, what about our daughter? Nah, she's exactly like you. She's been acting up lately, even talking back to her mother. She should also be punished. But she was looking forward to the trip. I'll reconsider once you both apologize, if you understand. You can go home now. My husband hangs up the phone. So what should we do now? It's a long trip home. Mom, are you okay? Did Dad and Grandma leave us? I suppose so. They're really mean, aren't they? Yes, they are. Are we heading home? Yeah, but I know you were looking forward to this trip, but all I wanted to do was go with you. Mom. If we are going home, I want to go home as well. Then let us go on an adventure together. An adventure? My daughter's cheerful expression lifted my spirits. I called my close friend Rose and told her what had happened. She quickly arrived to pick us up and drive us home. Hey, what are you planning to do? My friend waited until my daughter was asleep before she began talking. I think I'm going to get divorced. That is good. You have put up with a lot. Yeah, and I don't want to stay married to someone who mistreats our daughter. I signed the divorce papers and asked Rose to be my witness. My mother-in-law was already listed as another witness, so I could submit the paperwork right away. 3 days after we returned home, my phone rang. Just after I dropped my daughter off at kindergarten. You have got to be kidding me. You are the one with the problem. Why haven't you paid for your accommodation? Because you are the one who left me. You should have paid in advance. Oh, seriously? And why does the hotel charge $6,000? That's because we had to fulfill all of your mother's requests. Please come over here with the money as soon as possible. I am not going to. I'm the one who was left behind. I didn't even want to go on the trip. You and your mother had a good time together, so why don't you split the costs? That's $3,000 each. At that point, I heard a woman's voice on the other end of the line. It's time to pay. If you don't, I'll contact the police. Not a problem. My wife will pay. She's on her way here now. Where is your wife today? At home. I checked your address and it appears that you are quite far from there. You left her at the service area and now expect her to return just to pay. Excuse me. Your wife and I have been friends since high school. I picked up your wife and daughter from the service area. I asked an old friend for assistance with this trip. She offered me a free stay at the hotel she owns from high school. She was struggling with her future. Her family owned a well-known hotel, but she had different ambitions. As the only daughter, she had to take over the hotel, even though it wasn't what she desired. She told me that I was the one who gave her the most support during that difficult time. She felt she owed me. So she's returning the favor now. I told her she didn't have to pay. She could stay at the hotel, but she is not present. I do not have a personal connection with you. So you're just a hotel guest? Since you are only guests, you have to pay the full price. All right. How about you use your credit card to pay now and charge it to your wife later? I do not want to do that. It's not a matter of not wanting to. You can't wait. What do you mean? Your son's salary is $1,200, and his credit card limit is only $3,000. What do you mean? Your wife is lying. You mentioned that you made a good salary. My husband just remained silent. He works as a salesman and earns more money when he receives contracts. Despite his high sales numbers, he only receives the minimum guaranteed salary. He only receives the minimum wage, so he does not have enough money. Don't tell me you'll use your savings to pay. That is reserved for divorce, alimony, and child support. What exactly are you talking about? I've filed for divorce. Did you ever say you divorced me? Yes, and I filed the paperwork as quickly as I could. So if we are no longer married. Hold on a minute. I am not waiting. My husband ultimately agreed to pay Rose in installments. I then hired a lawyer and filed for custody of my daughter, child support, and alimony. I moved my daughter back to my parents' house. One of Rose's hotel regulars, an executive at my husband's company, told him to pay for his stay, as well as my mother-in-law, who divorced when my ex-husband was in middle school and expected him to support her in the future. I learned about my ex-husband's income. She then contacted me and asked me to reconsider our divorce. I can't believe she has the audacity to ask that after what she's done to me. My ex-husband also called, saying our daughter needs a father and that we should remarry and live together. My daughter is content living with my parents. I don't understand why he's saying this now when he's never taken care of her before. My ex-husband moved back to his mother's house shortly after the divorce. He had poor work performance and poor planning skills, so he booked a last-minute vacation for that trip. His inability to pay for the hotel became known to a company executive, and he is now extremely embarrassed at work. Next weekend, I'll take my daughter to the house hotel. I started a new job to provide a better future for us. It's been a long time since I worked, but it's far more rewarding than my marriage ever was. The idea that children require both parents did not apply to us. I believe that children benefit more from having happy parents. I've learned a lot through this divorce. My commitment to putting my daughter first has remained constant. I can always do my best. People like my ex-husband appear to be very confident. I wonder where they get it. Overall, I believe the divorce was the right decision. I am grateful for my wonderful daughter and supportive friends. I hope you can find peace and happiness with your daughter.